Hello, everyone. My name is John Edwards. With me, as always, is Zeke Baker, and together we make the Dad's Drinking Bourbon. Wherever you are, whatever time it is, thank you for making us a part of your day. Say hello to the folks, Zeke.
Aloha.
Wow, I have you up loud.
Well, you know, I try to be calm and collected, but we've had a good time tonight, so it may show.
It has been a good time. It is a lot different from last week when you were falling asleep on the air.
Hey, look, I mean, just because you spoke more than I did and I fell asleep, I can't help you have that tone to me.
I know. My wife and you have something in common. We are joined tonight by a special guest. Someone, if you are in Middle Tennessee, you know and love this man. This man is the heart and soul. Some people say it's Turok, but we know the heart and soul behind Elixir Spirits is TJ. Thank you so much for being on the show tonight.
Well, thank you for having me. Like Minnie Pearl, I'm just so proud to be here.
Some of you may know TJ as More Beam for me on Instagram, and this man lives, breathes, drinks Beam. He's even in a Jim Beam t-shirt. He showed up.
I am.
He showed up reading the big man of bourbon. He brought his he brought Beam straight up. Sorry. It's not the Booker book.
Not yet. I haven't got that one yet.
But he showed up with the Jim Beam book. And I said, I think you're getting too academic for us. And TJ, if you're getting too academic for us.
Oh, it might be trouble.
But this man knows, I mean, he's been sitting here all night, Zeke, and I love it. We're drinking and we're going to get into Beams and we're going to talk about blinds and all the stuff we did with Beam tonight. And we'll be drinking something and all of a sudden TJ goes, hey, did you know this? Did you know that when Beam sent this stuff out, they would send out Booker's tasting notes and how to drink a bourbon? And like anything we did, he would just have a fact from a book. It's crazy how much this guy knows about Beam.
Lots of flyers, lots of curveballs, and as John said, he's emphatic about Beam to say the least. As soon as John posted the pics of the Beam contributions, so to speak, my phone blew up and it was TJ. Hey! Now when y'all doing that? When is this? We've been talking about doing an episode now. I think it's the perfect one. When we gonna do it? Now what's going on? When is it? Come on, let's get this locked down. So more than happy and just privileged to make all this happen and have a good time tonight for sure.
Absolutely. And TJ, I know that our fans, all two of them, have been very, very excited for this episode. But for the people around the Middle Tennessee area that don't know you, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So my name's TJ Young. I work down at Elixir Spirits, which is kind of the mecca of Murray County. If you are a bourbon drinker or a spirits drinker in general, we tell folks we don't discriminate against good bourbon or good spirits in general. I was of course a customer there before, but anyway, I've worked in retail all my life, and working in the liquor business just always seemed like a great thing to do, and I finally got my opportunity, and I've really been able to fulfill my love for dark brown water.
Well, as long as Turok shares, right?
Oh yeah, as long as Turok shares, that's the important part.
I know he shares with everybody that goes into his store. Now, is that ever, because you're working, right? Mm-hmm. While he's in there, he's giving away all this juice to everybody else that comes in. Do you ever get jealous?
I don't get jealous unless they finish something without me, a beer or something like that. And I'm like, man, I want to try that, see if the boysenberries really tasted like boysenberries.
The schnozberries taste like schnozberries. Yeah. It's got to also afford some, let's just say, advantages that you might not have had before in your retail career working at Elixir, because you do get to try some of that stuff when distributors come in. Also, the bottles that Tarek has out, you could actually go and try some of those things and have some of those bottles that you might not have had before, right?
Oh, absolutely. And, we've got a fantastic customer base where we've been able to taste Booker's Rye, which I had never even seen in person before. before I got to try it. And those are not things that made it to many liquor stores. They were a lot of on premise in restaurants. They were primarily a restaurant fare and not a liquor store fare. So getting to try those unique things and try something that people have poured their heart and soul into, it's really phenomenal to be able to do that.
And as a Beam guy, you probably loved the Booker's Rye.
Oh man,
right?
it's wonderful. It's probably my favorite Booker's. And I know that's...
You're really going out on a limb there, TJ.
Well, I haven't had a lot of Bookers. I've thought about buying one, but sometimes, you get into this and I get caught up on, okay, I know this is here and we have this many, but we only have 2 bottles left of this, so I've got to grab one of these instead. And I might even buy a cheaper bottle just to know that I've got that bottle secure and I have it instead of buying that more expensive one that I know I can buy next week or the week after that.
Now, have you tried the Little Book yet?
I've tried the Little Book. It's really phenomenal, and one of my favorite things is it's just so unconventional. There's a lot going on, and it's been a while since I tasted it, and I can't remember specifically, but one of the best things I got on it was I've never tasted a whiskey that had tasted notes of vanilla ice cream on it. It was really wild to have that on there, and of course, out of the 3 people that tasted it, I was the only one that got vanilla ice cream because that's the way it goes down at Elixir.
I got a Heath bar on that one.
Yeah.
It was almost like a Heath bar toffee candy crunch on that.
Yeah, I enjoyed it as well. I think the malted presence, it's a very good blend, which I'm sure distilling's one thing and hard enough in and of itself, but to take 3 different products and blend them and put them in a ratio that yields that kind of profile. I mean, I give more kudos to that than distilling almost, honestly.
Oh, yeah, and it was so sweet that I told folks, or I told Tark anyway, that I'm pretty sure if Jim Beam came out with a candy, this is what it would taste like.
Well, they do. I mean, if they came out with those bourbon balls, I think they would have to use Little Book for it, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And, of course, in this manner, ridiculous is a good word.
Again, let's go back to you for a second before we go into this Jim Beam. So, you worked in the retail business, but are you a lifelong Tennessean? Tell the folks a little bit about, where you grew up, because that's going to influence a little bit of your bourbon taste as well.
I grew up in Chapel Hill, Tennessee all my life, and I've grown up and I've lived within 20 miles of the same place my entire life. The first bourbon I ever had was Wild Turkey. It was warm. It was a hot bottle. It was not my favorite thing. And the second bourbon I had was Jim Beam White Label. And at the time, I mixed it with Coke and I didn't think much about it. But Beam's always been kind of close to my heart. But
I think a lot of us mixed Jim Beam with Coke for our first bourbon.
Oh, yeah. But so I've always been around the area, and I just I love Tennessee, but Kentucky's pretty close to my heart as well with all the good stuff that's coming out of there.
Yeah, your phone rang before we got on. You think there's any chance we could change that from Rocky Top to On U of K?
Oh, no way. Absolutely not. It's got to be Rocky Top all day.
What's Georgia's song, Zeke?
Glory, glory to old Georgia. Glory, glory to old Georgia.
Wait, your guys' song is I've Been Working on the Railroad?
Glory, glory to old Georgia, and to hell with Tennessee.
See, I always thought it was somewhere
We don't worry
around
about Kentucky.
What? Yeah, only when you play basketball.
I thought it was somewhere along the lines of Who Let the Dogs Out, but mainly that's because of all the Georgia players that have wore stripes in the last few years.
Well, you know what I always say? You know why Tennessee fans wear orange, right?
Oh, because we look good in it.
No, so you can go to the game on Saturday, go hunting on Sunday, and pick up trash on the side of the road on Monday.
Hey, that's really, really close to home, John. That's probably
Quality community service, dude.
that's probably pretty close to fact.
If you've never served your community, then you're not doing something right.
Exactly. Speaking of serving your community, Jim Beam served us, and we want to thank the good folks at Jim Beam. They sent us 4 different bourbons. They sent us the white label, they sent us the black, they sent us the double oaked, and they sent us the Distiller's Cut. Now, we have already done Distiller's Cut on a show, and if you haven't listened to that one, go back and listen to that one. It was one of our earlier shows where we had Distiller's Cut on, but us being the dads, we had to change it up a little bit. So TJ was nice enough to bring a 7-year white label. So we swapped that out for the white label that they sent us. You also brought Beam's Choice, which is a discontinued charcoal filtered beam. And then I brought the 12 years craft selection. So it is a regular Jim Beam, but it is aged 12 years old. So we have a 7-year Jim Beam, a 12-year Jim Beam. I'll go through the tail of the tape on all of this, but what we did is we kind of assumed from our earlier stuff and what we've done, we assumed that Distiller's Cut and the craft 12-year were probably going to be the best. So what we did was a blind. It was almost like a 2-round, little round robin thing here, where we put the choice, the 7-year, the black, and the double oaked up in a blind. And then the winner of that one, we are going to do a blind on that with the top 3. And we are thinking the top 3 is whatever won that blind on the bottom, as well as the Distiller's Cut and the craft. Everybody good to go with that?
I agree.
Let's talk about the 4 that we had in the play-in game. And what we had was the choice. It was a 5-year-old discontinued 40% ABV, 80 proof charcoal filtered bourbon. The white label 7-year 80 proof 40% ABV. That is also discontinued because it's no longer out as 7 years. The black is a round 6 years, but non-age stated, 86 proof, 43% ABV. The double oaked is a twice barreled, 86 proof, 43% ABV, and 4 years old. The other thing I want to let you know is white label goes for about $17.99. The choice is going to be about $12.99 if you can still find it. The double oaked is going to be around $22.99. And the black is also going to be at $22.99. I'm going to tell you right now, before we even get into this, that the prices here, I don't think you can go wrong with buying any of these. I don't want to do buy, borrow, pass before we even drink it. At the prices here, I don't feel bad about anything.
No, the only time somebody's going to complain if they just see the bottle and have their mind made up on what Jim Beam is or is not going into it. And that's when you really have some fun and just pour it in a cup for them and don't tell them. Then say, well, actually, what you drank was this thing right here.
I think, TJ, you could probably speak to this. In recent years, the advent of the black, and I really appreciate the new labels that they did with Jim Beam in the recent years, because I don't think the old black label actually did that bourbon the service that it deserved. I think in recent years, they've really classied up their labels, but the black came out, double oaked came out over this past fall, Distiller's Cut came out. So those really affordable, 25 and under bourbons, Jim Beam is really excelling and putting some other options out there, right?
Right. I've told folks over and over that, black's just really hard to beat. But right now, if you can still get your hands on Distiller's Cut, it's the best $20 bottle out there on the shelf. And I feel very confident in that statement. I
think Zeke and I really like, now we put that one up against a store pick Knob Creek and a Booker's. It still held its own. It didn't beat those two, as we sometimes look for those value plays to come in, but it still held its own, right, Zeke?
Yeah, and especially considering, obviously price, but the variance in proof, whether good or bad, flavor profile you're going to get from either the Knob Creek or the Booker's, as opposed to 100 proof, that should legitimately be a pretty noticeable difference right on.
Well, and the thing on that one too, right? The Knob Creek is going to be 120 proof. The Booker's I think we had was high, maybe 128, or I can't remember off the top of my head. I know it was over 125. So there was still a 20 proof at least gap between those. A lot of these things, the double oaked is only 4 years old. That's something to think of here. The rest of this stuff, they're really good. About 5-6 years and under on these Distiller's Cut, black, the white label, and the double oaked. A lot of good choices here, though, for a lot of good prices, and we did put that in a blind. I'm going to kind of peel the curtain back and say, so we had 4 of them. We all had the same order. I want to thank your brother Andy for pouring these for us. So a big shout out to him. That was a huge assist. We ended up with these as the choice was the first one we drank, the black was the second one we drank, 7-year was the third one we drank, and double oaked was the fourth one we drank. I should let you know that the only one I got right was the 7-year. The only one Zeke got right was the choice. But TJ got every single one of these right. And, it doesn't do us any good saying that we only got one right, each of us, and TJ got them all right. But this man knows his beam. Andy will attest to it. Zeke and I will attest to it. We did this completely blind. Andy poured these for us. And TJ got every single one of these right. And we didn't even have enough Glencairns for the first round. And we had to do these out of Dixie cups. And TJ said, I thought you were going to pull a fast one on me because I really think these are tasting different. And he still got them all right.
Beam has that underlying kind of nuttiness character. Sometimes you get bitter almonds on it, and other times you get peanuts on them. But once you've tasted them, they're always like a familiar friend. You can kind of go back and say, oh yeah, this is black, or oh yeah, this is the 12.
TJ and I both had the double oaked as our number ones. TJ and I both had the black as the number 2. I had the 7-year as my number 3 and the choice as my number 4. TJ had the choice as his number 3 and the 7-year-old as his number 4. Zeke went out on a limb here. He had black number 1. He had the choice number 2. He had the 7-year as number 3 and the double oaked as number 4. So what we decided because of all of this, and we'll talk about tasting notes of these here in a second, but the one that we decided that moved on because it was the highest for all of us was the black. I know that TJ and I both had the double oaked as our number 1, but we did have the black as our number 2. So because of that, we're going to go ahead and put the black forward. Do you guys agree? Any?
No, I didn't think the black was what it was, but I did rank it as my number 1 overall. So. But double oaked, I don't know. I've yet to have a double oaked I enjoy. I don't know. I think it's a forcing, almost like whatever the Cleveland people do, where they claim they can age whiskey in an exponential amount of time. To me, the double oaking just seems to force nature almost. And on the front end, you can still detect young presences. And then on the back end, you just get such a much more pronounced oak char bitterness that does not resonate to the youngness you get on the front end. It goes a complete 180 and there's no balance or just even flow to it. Literally anything I've had that's doubled oak, I get that for whatever reason. It just throws my whole palate off because you get day and night differences, as it moves across the tongue. And
I wrote that down. For me, the bitterness on the finish of that double, let's talk about the double oaked first. There was some bitterness on the finish, but I definitely, it's like one of these things with all of them in this first round of 4. I got none of them are going to knock your socks off because they're all 86 proof and under. So you take that out of the equation because there are tasting notes that we could write across the board. We could say these are all smooth, they all have caramel, and they all have vanilla. I think I did get some of that signature beam peanut nuttiness, candiness to it. The double oaked for me, the change in that one was I could taste the oak more. Right?
Right. So my notes on double oak were very simple. I wrote, love this, and Old Charlie's caramel pie. Those were the two things that stood out to me. I didn't catch a lot on the finish or anything like that. I just caught that it was so good to be able to drink it, and first of all, it's amazing to be able to drink it blind, and you gain a whole new appreciation for it.
I'm more concerned about this pie. So can you tell us more about this pie?
Have you never had the caramel pie at Old Charlie's? They have free pie Wednesday. You can go.
Yeah.
You can go.
Old Charlie.
Yeah.
Old Charlie.
I thought he was talking. No, he said Old Charlie's. I thought he was talking about Old Charlie's.
Like, I'm like, about Old Charlie's free pie Wednesday.
Yeah.
I'm like, who's this Old Charlie guy? Is he down there at Spring Hill?
Does it look like I missed an Old Charlie's free pie Wednesday?
They don't have Old Charlie in North John.
No, I've been to plenty of Old Charlie. Look at me. Do you not think I've been to O'Charlie's?
I don't know.
I thought he said Old Charlie's.
And then so begins the progression of John not understanding what Southern folks say.
Well, bless his heart.
Yeah.
I mean, it was
a slippery slope going quick.
Y'all, it was bound to happen. You knew it was going to happen. But let's move on to the 7 year. I didn't get a lot of notes on this one, just besides it was smooth, right?
Right. I got that it was smooth and it tasted kind of like Wilson's Leather Outlet. I don't know if you've ever been there.
Yeah, we've been there.
Yeah, and the caramel seemed to come on the back end for that one to me.
Yeah, there was a little bit of caramel on the back end. Zeke, Wilson's Leather Outlet, they got one at Opry Mills.
Dude, I totally missed 3 somehow. All I had was it was very thin, lots of char and bitter. And it was to the point where I originally thought that was double oaked.
Really?
Indeed.
The 7 year.
Yep.
It's not often that Zeke and I are thrown for a loop, but Jim Beam, y'all have done it. Let's talk about the black here. I thought black was surprisingly smooth for me. I know, it's still only an 86 proof, but considering the realm where we're at, 80 to 86 proof, it had a slight spice, but it was overwhelmingly smooth. I got that caramel on there. The caramel was definitely present on the finish, but the first thing where it hits your palate, it's almost smooth and then gives way to the slight spice and caramel that's in there. It almost kind of is it's like a trick bourbon, because you have it and you think it's going to be watery tasting, and then all of a sudden that flavor hits you at the end like a little bomb.
Oh yeah, it hugs you, and everything I had on it, I wrote light after the end of it. Light peanuts, light char, finish long but light. But what I didn't write on there is getting the hug out of that. It was the one I got the biggest hug out of, but it was not an offensive or overbearing hug in a sense.
If those are what you think are hugs, those are more side hugs to me.
But yeah, it's definitely a church hug, that one-armed hug, how's your mom and them? But
peace be with you.
Yeah, yes, peace be with you.
Zeke, what'd you get on that one?
Probably the name for light kisses. It's not, is it pillow kisses?
An Eskimo kiss?
No, not that. There's nothing related to Eskimo here. A pillow kiss is something anyway. It's a light version of a kiss. I can't.
Yeah, a pillow kiss or something like that.
Well, how do you kiss your Eskimo brothers?
Never kissed an Eskimo brother. We just high-fived and kept going. For the black, I really just wrote down that it had more bite than the first. And for the first, which was a green label, not jumping around, but I picked up corn and barley. I had corn are less prominent than the barley. And then as it moved across towards the back, just, a light, easy taster. And so with that, that's kind of where my deduction was of, all right, the two smoothest here, and at least in my mind, we're not going to be double oak for sure, just because I'm prejudiced against it. Whatever. Black, I've never had. I didn't know. But I felt like the more aged 7-year discontinued product would probably just, generally speaking, be something that was a really solid drinker. So that's where the mind was, and charcoal filtering, mellowing things out. I felt like if 2 was a more pronounced version of 1, and those are my 2 favorites, then the charcoal would have been the less pronounced, and the 1 would have been the 7. But that was just where my mind was going.
I didn't follow that, but I'm going to believe you.
That's possible.
I was just thinking in my head while you were talking about all that. I mean, does anybody not just think about Pearl Jam when they say Jim Beam Black?
No.
I just think like, she won't hear, she won't.
Nope.
No?
Nope. I know PJ listens to Pearl Jam. I think it's a lot more country.
I know that I think Eddie Vedder's in Pearl Jam, but outside of that, I know that he sings kind of like he's got a mouthful of cotton balls. But
nobody else knows anybody else in the band besides Eddie Vedder.
Yeah, it was kind of the Eddie Vedder and Pearl Jam,
I mean, the whole song was like,
oh, that's Black.
Yeah, that is Black.
Interesting.
So Black moved on. I think The moral of the story is Zeke and I don't know Beam like TJ knows Beam. TJ, give yourself a pat on the back and have yourself a Crystal Burger. We are channeling our inner Grease, our friend from the podcast, who you guys should go check out at thepodcast.com. But we are channeling our inner Grease and having a sack full of Crystal Burgers tonight because Andy was hungry and we all gave him money to go get us food while we drink whiskey.
A decent trade.
It was a decent trade. I'll do it again.
The one thing on choice, which did we talk about choice? I can't remember.
Zeke talked about choice, but I didn't really disagree with him.
The only thing I got on choice, I think he didn't, is on the back end, and I tasted it until the cup was empty because I thought my mind was playing tricks on me. Was I got almost kind of a thick, black, unsweet tea on the back end of that, which I never got when I tasted it when it wasn't blind. But I got kind of that tea leaf kind of bitterness on the back end of an unsweet tea, which all unsweet tea is bitter to me. It might not be to you, John, but to me.
Trust me, I've been down here long enough where I know sweet tea and unsweet tea.
I know my wife is going to listen to this, so I'll say, unsweet tea is really a sin when you're south of the Mason-Dixon line.
Unsweet tea is ETL. Sorry, John.
TJ drinks unsweet tea. See, you never know what the heck Eddie Vedder was saying.
Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure he was kin to James Brown. He would finish everything. What up? Ha! And they would go, yeah.
Although nothing beats the scene in Rocky IV where James Brown is doing Living in America before Ivan Drago fights Apollo Creed. No? Zeke's looking at me like, I
You quit watching around Rocky II?
Man, John lost me right there. I will say I did watch that Rocky remake a few years ago on a flight to Amsterdam, which coincidentally, I honestly think we bought a handle of Jim Beam in duty free. And they give it to you on the plane, even though you're not supposed to drink it. Well, I mean, you can't watch Rocky flying to Amsterdam at 25.
I'm telling you, Rocky IV is my favorite Rocky out of all of them.
I guess this would have been 6. It was the remake, that first remake.
Yeah, and Rocky V, we forget, is even there. We all throw out Rocky V. Stallone throws out Rocky V. But Rocky IV, where Apollo dies after fighting Ivan Drago, Rocky single-handedly goes to this cabin in Siberia and trains.
Is that where all the sit-ups and stuff?
Yeah.
Oh, no,
I mean, that's every Rocky. But at the end of it, he stops the Cold War single-handedly with his speech where he goes, if I can change, and if you can change, then we all can change. That line single-handedly stopped the Cold War.
Interesting.
TJ's looking at me like I'm not touching this one.
I was going to say it's hard to tell if Reagan took notes from Sylvester Stallone or Stallone took notes from Reagan for that speech.
I don't know. It doesn't sound like Gorbachev tear down that wall.
I still like Tupac Changes the best, I think.
That came out after he died, though.
Changes?
Yeah. Yeah, that came out on the double album that was posthumous to his death. Sorry, I was a big Tupac guy.
It was a big deal. I was a little kid, and sorry to show my age, but it was a big deal when that came out. I remember at least 2 of my older brothers going out to pick that up.
Tupac or Rocky IV?
No, the Tupac album.
So let's move on here. We now have our top 3, and that is going to be Jim Beam Black. It is going to be the Jim Beam Signature Craft 12-year-old bourbon and the Jim Beam Distiller's Cut. So what we're going to do here is what we normally do. We're going to take a break. We are going to have these blind. Andy is pouring new blinds as we speak, and then we're going to come back and we are going to drink these, tell you what we think about them, see what our guesses are. Hopefully TJ's going to finally get one wrong. But Zeke, go ahead and play that beautiful bean footage.
Ha!
Living in America! Ha! Ha! All right, and we are back. We had a lot to drink over the course of the night. We just had 3 bourbons. We had the Jim Beam Black, the Jim Beam Signature Craft 12-year, and the Distiller's Cut. All of these were poured by Andy. I want to say, Andy, thank you very much for pouring these blinds for us.
No problem.
Now, was that hard to keep them all, together?
Not really. I just kind of figured out my own little system, and it went pretty good.
Now, we're keeping you from the bar tonight, right?
Yeah.
So how are you doing with all of that? Because you don't seem to be having a good time.
It'll be all right. I got 5 more days.
5 more days at the bar?
Hopefully.
So, isn't this like being at the bar?
I guess alcohol-wise, not the same environment.
Is it terrible because you can't drink because you're driving your brother home?
Oh, it's the worst.
But there's a promise here that you're going to get a couple of these bottles that we were drinking, right?
Yeah.
Do you think your brother's going to come through?
He's usually a man of his word.
So what do you normally like drinking?
Maker's Mark.
So you're a big Maker's guy. Now, Maker's, TJ, enlighten the folks a little bit because Maker's was owned by Beam.
Right.
And there's a little bit of a tie in there, right?
The Samuels lived down the road from the Beams. If that's what you mean, they all lived in it.
But they were under the same company umbrella.
Oh yeah, they were under the same company umbrella as early as 2011, before they were Beam Suntory.
Now, interesting thing you might not know about Makers, it was not actually Bill Samuels who decided to dip the bottle in red wax. It was his wife, Marge Samuels, who decided to dip the bottle in the red wax as well as put the SIV on the bottle. The SIV was actually there because she thought that they were the 4th generation of Samuels distillers. He was actually the 6th. So, fun fact, there is a typo on every single bottle of Makers that they have just kept there this whole time.
So you can use that at the bar now.
That you can pick up the ladies with that line.
That's a good pickup line.
I'm pretty sure there's a really good pickup line somewhere about dipping something in wax.
Yeah. That's right on the money right there.
Well, we just wanted to take a second and say thank you very much for doing these blinds. You are better than PricewaterhouseCoopers at the Oscars because there is an envelope that has the winners of these 3 blinds or the order of these 3 blinds that is sitting in the middle of the table. Can you attest right now that we have not seen what is in this envelope?
No, they have not.
Okay, so he's going to be here. You could go back to doing whatever you were doing. I just want to pick on you for a second, but thank you.
He's lining up
No
work
problem.
at the bar.
He is. He's getting ready to go back to the bar.
You tell people you've been on a podcast now.
Yeah. So what we're going to do here is we are going to go through, we are going to say what we think each one of these is. Then we're going to rank them, and then we'll talk about the notes on it. So, TJ, you are the guest. You go first. We all had the same order because Andy poured. So what do you think they were?
So on number 1, I thought it was a 12-year-old. There was almost a.
Don't go into the notes too much.
Okay.
Just give me 12-year-old for number 1.
12-year-old for number 1. Number 2, I thought was the distiller's cut. And number 3, I thought was the black. This was a lot tougher than the first time around.
So I agree with you that 12-year-old was number 1. I had the black as number 2, and I had the distiller's cut as number 3. Zeke, would you?
I had craft 1, distillers 2, black is 3. After some tastings, I decided to stick with the nose.
So I am the only one who switched up the black and the distiller's cut. In my order of liking them, I put 3, 1, 2. So I said I like the distiller's cut first is what I thought it was, right? I liked my number 3 first, my number 1 second, and my number 2 third. What do you have?
What I thought was the distiller's cut, number 2, I listed as number 1. Number 3, I listed as number 2, which I thought was the black, and number 3, I thought was the 12.
Zeke, what order did you have?
I hemmed and hawed actually on this for a bit. And it's still a toss-up. 3, which I thought was black, even though it tricked me as being 1 on the first round. I actually had it as 3. 2, 1, 3. I'll go with that.
So we're all wrong.
Really?
Well, 2, 1, 3, that's my preference.
Yes, no, but I'm saying we're all wrong with our guesses.
Oh.
Number 1 was black. Number 2 was the signature craft. And number 3 was distiller's cut. So I got number 3 right with the distiller's cut, but I think both of you got them both wrong.
This
right?
one was hard. I mean, they were all good, and it was hard to pick, and it was really hard to tell the difference between the two, or between the 3.
Andy's so sad he's over there coughing up a storm that he's not at the bar right now. Do they have bars down in Chapel Hill?
No, you typically have to go further south to Lewisburg or down to Pulaski, which I don't advise, or go further north to Nashville.
So you had 12 as number 1, distiller's cut as number 2, and black as number 3, right?
Right.
So you guys, it's not often Zeke, he's quiet, he's pensive. It's not often this happens. This kind of rocks his world.
Yeah, I went 2-1-3.
Yeah.
Which I think surprised me the most simply because, granted, it was a while back, but when we had the distiller's cut, I mean, I think I polished off half, 3/4 of it during that show.
I know, it was my bottle.
It was good.
I mean, I got the distiller's cut right, and I flip-flopped the black and the 12-year. I think, if anything, for me, this proves, I mean, that 12-year is a $39 to $49.99 bottle. It proves to me how good the Jim Beam offerings are in that $20 to $25 range when you look at the black and distiller's cut. And if that proves anything, I mean, Zeke, the way you had it when you had 2-1-3, now you had the signature as your number 1. And you had, what order did you have them in, TJ, for order of liking?
I had number 3, or wait a minute. I had number 2 as number 1.
So both of you liked that $39 to $49.99 Jim Beam as your number 1. I think I'm learning a couple things from this. I'm learning that you two are probably spirit animals. You have very similar nose, palates, tastes, preferences. I knew that Zeke and I would be opposite because that's typical for us. But the other thing here that I think I'm noticing is that it's surprising to me how well that black does. Even the way that you guys had this going. People talk about the double oaked, and it's don't sleep on the black. I think that old Jim Beam black label kind of threw people for a loop. It kind of looked like that Red Stag label for a while. I think you can't sleep on the black one, right?
You can't ignore it, and I don't know if we can keep this in the show, but I talked with one of the Beam representatives earlier last week, and he said, when they go out on the town, he was shocked the first time he went out how many people ordered black instead of a Booker's or something like that, and that was just their go-to bottle or go-to drink.
I take it back. You're not getting to take the black home. I'm just kidding. Zeke, you're very quiet over there. What do you?
Well, I'm just looking at notes and thinking in my head and rationalizing things to see what hints may or may not have been missed on.
I think for me, the way I could identify the distiller's cut, let's go there first. And that one was number 3. It was very sweet. That nougat peanut taste is present for me, and the finish lingers. That signature for me, I thought that one was sweeter than all the rest, and it was almost too sweet for me. I liked that distiller's cut because it was a nice balance of the heat with the sweet. It was sweet, spice, caramel, vanilla. I had a medium finish on that, and what I thought was the 12-year, but was actually the black. I said it is super smooth with a slight spice. I was surprised the spice I was getting while it was still smooth. The finish is older but not over oaked. It tastes like a mature bourbon that has its stuff together like it was graduating college. Like it's preparing to go out in the real world, but it's learned everything it can. There's no need. I mean, I almost think that one is aged perfectly, that black. It tastes like it's really in that sweet spot and it's really honed in. I think if you were to age that black longer, it wouldn't taste as good. I think it really hit its stride right there.
It's hard to compare because it's not right here next to each other, but I was really devastated the first time I popped a fresh bottle of the black that didn't have an age statement on it. I'd had a couple of bottles of the 8-year-old black, but this tasting has really changed my mind on the way I view the non-age stated black label.
Totally agree.
Looking at the notes for the first one, nose-wise, I had some alcohol, sweet cinnamon, mallows and marshmallow, not mellow, but similar. A brandy sweet. Palate was enjoyable, very light profile, balanced like corn, light rye, again, much more mallow. Finish, light and smooth, hint of rye. Which, granted, the black is 86 proof. I think what tipped the scale on me towards more of the craft, and even the proofs are day and night difference, was just some of those, Knob Creek picks that are a little higher in age. And some of those just are such a cinnamon bomb. The cinnamon I got out of that's what led me to that thought process. Second one, which turned out to be the craft. Nose-wise, I thought it reminded me of either cheap red or brandy wine. Cheer wine soda, maybe. It really came across well. Palate, medium amount of alcohol coming off of it. Char, bitterness showed up pretty quick. Some rye kick. And then just more char, some barley toward the back, and it kind of mellowed out as it was going down. Finished, there was a spice left, but it wasn't a hug. It was just that tingle in the mouth, which, like I say, kind of led me to think otherwise on that one. 3, what turned out to be Distiller's Cut. I thought that it had a similar nose to the craft, but it definitely had a much more rye presence and kick. Palate, lots of barley, some bitter. As it sat, it seemed to have more bitter, but it worked into a decent viscosity, which that was the only one of the 3 with that. Finish, I just put meh. Not the spices, 2. But it had the mouthfeel presence of, so you were waiting on it, but it never showed up, so to speak.
I could see all that.
Number 1, which I thought was 12 and turned out to be the black, I got kind of a leather and oak candle, which I spent a little bit of time at Cracker Barrel, and that was a popular candle there. I got kind of that on the nose in a pleasant manner, not an offensive one. Now on the palate, I got cocoa powder, which I did not get the first time, almost like that Nestle's.
The scoop stuff?
The scoop stuff, with a rabbit on it. I forget the name of it. And this time on the finish, I thought it was a medium finish, where I listed it as long the first time. Number 2, I thought was Distiller's Cut, which turned out to be Signature. The nose was kind of a high alcohol burn to me. It tasted like char and peanut M&Ms with a long spice finish that kind of finished abruptly.
Y'all make it sound amazing.
And number 3, which I thought was the black, I was sure that was the only one I was sure of. I thought it was light and thin and had kind of a hard caramel, off-brand Werther's caramel. If you had those thrifty grandmothers.
Everybody has.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Werther's are everywhere with older people, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, you missed. He said the thrifty off-brand. He snuck it in on you.
Oh, yeah.
No, I heard it.
And a short but pleasant finish. They were all good. I love
Now, not to cut you off.
Sure.
But did you think, going into this, did you think you were going to like the black the best, and that's why you automatically assigned it to the one that you liked the most?
I didn't, actually. I listed black as my least favorite.
No, he said he hadn't liked blacks when they took the age statement off.
No, but I'm saying what you thought. Number 3, what?
Number 3 I listed as number 2. I thought it was the black. And I was surprised. I thought that Distiller's Cut was number 1. But it turned out to be the Signature. So Signature was my number 1. And in the store, I tell folks, I don't tell them anymore because we don't have it. But the 12-year-old is everything that Beam White Label wants to be when it grows up. It's got the longer finish and the more intricacies to it.
Closing this out, I think we've all been here for a while. TJ has to work in the morning. I have to work in the morning. I don't know if Zeke has to work in the morning, but
I get there when I get there.
But what'd you think? Would you still buy all of these? I mean, knowing the prices that they are, you have Black and Distiller's Cut 25 and under. You're going to get that signature at 39 to 49. Would you still buy all these, or would you?
Oh, absolutely. You know, Beam, I tell people, is kind of like Elvis. They might not have been the first one to do what they did, but they did it well. You know.
Zeke, what about you?
I need some clarification here. So on 2, you said it was a mix of a charred and a peanut M&M.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I happen to eat a fair amount of M&Ms over time.
Doesn't look it, you bastard.
There's dark chocolate ones. There's peanut butter ones. They even have that malted one now.
Mm-hmm.
So exactly where does that rank amongst the actual M&Ms that are available? I need to discern this for myself.
So let me break it down. The char I got on the front end, and the peanut M&M seemed to come on the back end towards the finish of the palate.
Yeah, so I mean, at least to me, I think of char as dark chocolate.
Yes.
Peanuts is peanuts, and obviously there's a malted context to it.
Mm-hmm.
So what hybrid of those 3 that are out there are you putting to this?
So
I can buy a pack of all 3 and put a certain number each one in my hand, throw them back. We'll see what happens.
I got dark chocolate on the front end, and then as it got closer to the finish, I got that peanut M&M, that kind of maltiness that you talked about. And then it went on into the bit of a spice finish.
So how many do I need of those 3 in my hand to get this flavor?
You need the dark chocolate and the peanut, and you'll be spot on.
Evens?
Yeah, 2 of each.
All right.
2 of each.
Are you all just messing with me at this point?
I'm not sure anymore.
I don't know if he's messing with you or if he's messing with me by talking to you.
We should spend more time at Elixir as we do, and you'll get these fun notes and a good time.
The one thing I will say is I probably, after doing this, I would probably skip over the craft, and I would rather buy Black and the Distiller's Cut for the price of the craft. I'd take both of those bottles over one of the bottle of the craft.
Yeah, that's double, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I would still have a great time with those 2. I mean, I still loved the craft, don't get me wrong, but I think I would have just as good a time with those other 2 as I would with the craft.
Easily.
I would agree with that. You know, before I drank these blind, I thought that the 12-year-old was kind of the holy grail. But I'll say one more thing. Can you imagine if they came out with the signature craft now in the height of the bourbon boom, the hysteria it would cause as opposed to releasing it? I don't know if it was 4 or 5 years earlier. Can you imagine the stir it would cause if they released that stuff now?
Imagine if they came out with like an 18-year.
Oh, man, people would lose their mind.
They got to up the proof, though.
Oh, yeah.
86 doesn't excite anybody anymore.
Well, you know, you can still have a good time with 86 proof.
You just got to drink more of it.
Well, that's all right.
Well,
So closing this one out, though, what'd you learn, TJ? I mean, out of this whole experience, you've listened to us. We're really not that exciting. I think you probably learned that being in person with us. But what'd you learn from the experience and this bourbon that you love so much, actually drinking it blind?
Well, I learned you really have to park your assumptions at the door when you go in to drink this stuff. That's the thing about Beam that I tell people over and over is that you can't talk bad about it if you haven't tried it. And I know you won't talk bad about it after you've tried it. You know.
Well, we certainly appreciate you coming on. We hope that this is not the only time you come on. We would love to have you on again. Maybe this has to be a once-a-month thing, Zeke. And go down to Elixir Spirits, see our friend Tarak, see TJ. TJ's the one who looks like an Irish farmer. He's got a scally cap on and a big old red beard and a pair of overalls. It's like this dichotomy of, I want to ask you where your Lucky Charms are, and I also want to, ask you how the corn's doing this year.
Well, it's simple. The Lucky Charms are at Elixir. If you haven't come, you'll find them when you get there.
Oh, that's right down there at Elixir.
It's magically delicious.
So, TJ, we really appreciate you having you here. We had about 3 bourbons and we had about 4 before that. But Zeke, anything you want to say before we close?
Cheers. Have fun as always. Test yourself in some way, shape, form, or fashion. You never know what you don't know until you don't know it.
And before I go ahead and close out, follow TJ on Instagram at morebeam4me. Go ahead and see him at Elixir Spirits. Follow us on Facebook at Dad's Drinking Bourbon. Follow us on Instagram at Dad's Drinking Bourbon. Twitter at Bourbon Dads. Listen to our podcast on Apple, Google Play, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Spotify, YouTube, all your favorite podcast providers. Go ahead and find us. Make sure you leave us a 5-star review, but also leave a review. Tell us what you like about us. If you don't like us, send me a private message. Send Zeke a private message. Tell us what you don't like. We're going to try and make it better. Zeke, where else can the folks find us?
I'm going to punt the TJ on this one.
Spring Hill, Tennessee.
All y'all have a great night. Come down and see us down in Spring Hill, Tennessee. We'll see you next week. Cheers.
Ciao.
Slanjavar.
See ya.